Happy Halloween, MMA fans. So we got a good pod for you guys to... Jeez, get the shit out of me with that one. But we got a good pod for you guys today. And the first thing we're going to talk about is a YouTuber dressed up as a boxer. And that is Jake Paul, man. Jake Paul defeated Anderson Silva, who, by the way, this is another Halloween tidbit here. Anderson Silva's final UFC fight was on Halloween. So... Hey, wow, kind of interesting right there, but
the more you know.
Awesome. I thought I'd point that one out. But Jake Paul has defeated Anderson Silva in their boxing match by unanimous decision, and a lot of the MMA community is mad. I kind of want to read that one thing I sent you, the one comment that just had me dying. But it was.
I think you sent me it.
I did. That's where I'm looking.
But I looked at it pretty vaguely.
So before I guess we get into our thoughts of the fight, I guess we can go off what this guy said. But this one guy on Instagram, he said, "Funny how the announcers can brainwash everyone and that they don't know what they're watching, trying to make it look like it was a clear Jake Paul win. LOL. And then after every round, they show the stats and Silva's up in accuracy and power by a lot. But yup, I guess because Jake threw more and missed means he was better. Ha, just so unreal and so biased." And that's the guy's argument. And then the first reply is, "You typing this while crying?" I love that. Even if you don't agree, I love it. It's because that's how the internet should always be.
Yeah,
people gotta thick skins.
Exactly. There's nothing you can really do about it at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you're just crying into like a server. Like if you really think about what you're doing,
is it really making you feel better?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably not.
Well, I agree with the guy who I like the comment too.
Yeah, no, I get where he's coming from, but you know,
it was, I don't know. I thought watching it like live, I thought that Jake Paul had won because. Silva, like, he's right, like, with the numbers, and, like, there's some fights where the numbers matter, and, like, we'll actually kind of get into a couple of them in this one, but in this one, like, you could just tell, like, Jake was just landing, like, the more potent shots, even though he was missing more, his volume was up, he looked faster, he looked genuinely stronger, it was, Silva looked incredible, like, either way, even, was he, like, 46 now, and his technique was still outstanding, as anyone would expect it to be, and he definitely did pretty good. Like, he won some rounds. Like, in going into round 7, right? Yeah, round 7, I had it 3-3. So I had it, like, pretty close, and then I thought Jake had won the last 2. And that's why I thought it was a pretty clear win.
I think that's fair, too. I mean, especially seeing that knockdown from Jake Paul, like...
I thought that sealed it, man.
Yeah. But
yeah, I thought that sealed it, because... if the fight was close enough anyway, that probably made the last round the 10-8. I'm pretty sure that's how boxing works. If it's a knockdown, it's automatic. And, I mean, I don't know. Like, a lot of people want to hate on him still. And, every fight, like, you're going to get an excuse. And I think that's valid considering that he fought, like, Ben Askren and Tyron Woodley. But I don't know.
It's now, I don't think, well, it shouldn't be, like, about whether or not Jake Paul can box or not. I think it's pretty established.
Like, it's not, but dude, like, people are still think that he's just like is just not good. Like, everybody wanted him to fight Anderson Silva. He fought Anderson Silva and he won fair and square. And like, I swear I saw people actually talking about the legitimacy of that right hand that hit him at the end of the round. Like, if that was really, and they're showing like these crappy side angles where you can't even see the impact. But if you literally watched it and you saw the broadcast and they show the replay, you see he hits him clean on the chin with a right hook. Like, it's clear as day. So it's just, believe me, I was rooting for Anderson Silva, and I know you probably were too. But at the end of the day, like, you got to think about it outside of the YouTube stuff. You just got to be like, this dude has been training boxing hardcore for like 3 or 4 years now. Now and he's a fit dude as it is. Like, he's athletic. But you give anybody else like 3 or 4 years of boxing training, they're going to be pretty good. Like, they're not going to be just awful. So the fact that he's stepping in there like relatively early in his boxing career against a guy who's as seasoned of a striker as Anderson, and I agree, like, you could say that like the age obviously had something to do with it because, like I said, he did look slower, but that doesn't mean that Jake isn't doing real things. Like, one of the biggest things that I was thinking was like that right hand that he has is very legit, and we saw that in the last round. We saw it throughout the fight, and I don't know, like, I just don't agree with any controversy in this one. Like, I don't know what you think about that.
Well, it shouldn't be about, even though some of it is about whether or not still Jake Paul can box or not. It's just, who he's fighting now. And it's like, you just said it yourself. People wanted to see him fight Anderson Silva, and he saw him fight Anderson Silva. So now it's like, oh, okay, you passed this test. Now.
I think, real fans, like us and, like, certain people that I see, like, they acknowledge it. Like, the fact, like, they may not like it, but they acknowledge it. I just, like, don't respect the people who hate on him and then they refuse to acknowledge that he's any good at boxing, which he is. Like, he's clearly... If you... Look, me or you are not beating Anderson Silva in a boxing match, even if we were his size. So it's like, I just don't... I don't understand it, man. Like, it's just blind hate at that point.
Yeah.
And believe me, I'm not, like, a Jake Paul, like, believer or nothing like that. Like, I'm not a big fan, but I don't hate on him either. Like, I respect the fact that he's just, trying to basically get a bag. And I don't know, he called out Nate Diaz, called out Canelo. Like I said with Kamaru Usman, stay away from Canelo. You don't want that. I mean, yeah, you might make like $30 million, but you're going to get like seriously injured.
Yeah.
So I would, maybe Nate. I think you could beat Nate, genuinely.
Yeah, that's not like, I don't know where Canelo, like, that's just a ridiculous jump from who he's fought already.
We got pound for pound top boxers in the world. We can't beat Canelo, let alone Jake.
So far, it's been, retired UFC fighters. So Nate Diaz is another one. So
who's not as good of a striker as Anderson Silva is. Just the casual audience believes that he could pose a threat.
Just those two names in the same sentence, like, you can do, like, you get a bunch of attention. So yeah. So.
I kind of hope it happens. It'd be funny because I just like, I want to see what the excuse is then. Like, because Nate, you can't argue that he's like in his 40s. He's like, what, 35, 36? Actually, let me double check that because he actually might be older.
Nate was just too high.
Yeah, or he's a human. He's 37. He's a human punching bag. Like, dude, like, that going in. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I could already break this fight down, like, for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, this fight is gonna happen.
That's when we say, like, fight fans, like, tend to contradict themselves. It's like,
very true.
You're saying this before the fight, and then when it's actually happening, and then, like, either something like, it's more like, it's not that they're not expecting it to happen, it's just they don't want it to happen.
So they, like, just refuse to believe that, like, the other guy can win. Yeah. Like, that's kind of how it was with O'Malley versus Jan, honestly. I thought Sean actually brought up a good point about that on his YouTube. He was saying, like, all these people wanted him to lose going in, and then he fights, and you're mad that, like, you think that he's like, you're mad that you think I lost the fight and I won. So, like, what difference does it make? Like, you got what you wanted. Like, if you think I got my ass beat, I got my ass beat. Like, he's like, it was a close fight. That's still how I feel about it. And honestly, like, I'm glad that, like, all this is kind of happening, like, in the same time. Because even on this card, there were a couple of close fights that I thought were, like, debatable and that we could definitely get into. Back to the Jake Paul fight, though, it's like, if he fights Nate Diaz, it's going to be Nate probably walking him down, and Jake's just going to hit him with a bunch of body shots. And it's going to be a dirtier fight than the Silva one. I think that for sure. But I think Jake is a good enough boxer to beat Nate. Like, I think there's a lot of guys in MMA who are good enough boxers to beat Nate. So he's not like his brother. Nate's not as, like, slick with it. Not that Nick really always was, but he's definitely a lot better than Nate is in terms of, like, his actual boxing technique. But then, like, we had another MMA fighter going into boxing on this card versus LeVeon Bell, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and who has apparently been, like, actually working on his boxing, but I don't fucking know much about that, to be honest. And he fought Uriah Hall, who has obviously been in the UFC was in there for a long time, and ironically enough, was Anderson Silva's last fight on that Halloween. So another weird, that's a weird coincidence, man. I don't like that. But anyway, it's just getting into that fight, though, Uriah Hall kind of started a little slow. I thought LeVeon had, like, good head movement right away, but it just didn't really translate to much offense because Uriah is, like, pretty elusive even when he's just walking you down. And it seemed like as the fight went on, he kind of just got better and better. I know you probably hate LeVeon Bell.
I don't hate Le'Veon Bell. It's just unfortunate how his time went as a Jet, but water under the bridge.
Yeah, he's a boxer now, man.
Yeah, he's a boxer now. Good for him. He's exactly. He's doing something completely different now. So
it's amazing how he's remained healthier in boxing, which is kind of unbelievable. But I'll let you
fighting Uriah for, like, dude. It's like, it's like
you gotta pinch yourself sometimes. With
yeah,
these fights.
seriously, it's like what, like, you know, if you said like even like 5 months ago, if none of this was even in like, you know, thought of, like, how do you even think of like, yeah, I think Uriah Hall is gonna fight Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, because at the time, like Le'Veon hadn't had any pro fights yet. He had like a couple of the amateur exhibitions, but then Uriah, he was still in the UFC, and like nobody really expected. I don't know. You could say that like you can kind of expect that he would have gotten cut at that point, but I don't even know if he got cut or his contract just ended.
But, I mean, good for. Like I 100% agree with you in the sense, like, I think Uriah Hall should like really like, you know, like actively like train boxing, like actually like try to make something out of it, because
he didn't look horrible. Yeah, like I guess he's fighting a football player.
Yeah. I think he's got potential. I think he's someone who's always packed a heavy punch, and I think he's got the look, the size, everything, and I think he can make something out of it. We'll see. I mean, we'll see how far it goes, but
yeah. And even like his biggest thing in MMA was like always the takedown. So you eliminate the takedown. I feel like he could actually do some like real shit in boxing.
Yeah, that's
to be
what
honest.
I was trying to say.
I hope he does. Genuinely, I really do.
Me too.
But I guess the other thing that we could get into, there were a couple other boxing fights, but I don't know. It was like Lima versus God, I don't even remember the guy's name, to be honest. But the way I like kind of took it was like, this is like a fight to give Loma like a win. So I don't know. That's like, this is the type of shit that we don't like about boxing. It's like, you know, you have a big name and then they're fighting somebody who really shouldn't even be in the ring with them. Yeah. Kind of like Wilder and Helenius. That was another one of those, like, right off the bat.
It happens too much.
Yeah.
And then it's just longer to get like the fights that should actually be happening.
Yeah, we were talking about Spence and Crawford too. Like, I remember I posted about it on like the one reel on Instagram like a couple weeks ago, and I remember I only posted it that day because apparently it was rumored to have been set, and then it got canceled. So like, what are these guys doing? Like, I don't understand. I don't think it's Terrence Crawford's side. I really don't, because like everything I've seen from Terrence Crawford like says that he wants this fight. He literally left Top Rank so he can get this fight. It's just I don't understand like what the deal is with these big boxing
fights. Everything has to just be perfect with, you know, all the business side of it and the politics and
all the dumb logistics too, like the ring, like all the dumb crap that like you see, like, yeah, well, actually I can't fight in a ring that's blue. It needs to be white. Like, and they'll do that like the week of the fight. Like, it's just so crazy. Like, boxing it just has the dumbest shit sometimes, man. But let's get into MMA, man. Let's get into the real best combat sport. And we're going to talk a little bit about UFC Vegas 63. In general, I thought this was like a really fun card. Even like with the ending with the main event was kind of tough. I thought we got enough out of it that it wasn't the worst ending. But I really liked like the prelims were fun, and then the main card lived up to like what we thought it would probably be. And I guess starting from the top as we usually do, Arnold Allen obviously defeated Calvin Kattar by TKO due to Kattar's knee injury. It seemed like he blew out his knee, ACL or something. I don't know if it's like official yet. But even with that, like, you know, it's unfortunate, and I think like we should say like right off the bat probably like, you know, obviously hopefully Calvin is all right, and if he isn't, like if his knee is like actually something's torn, hopefully he has like a good quick recovery process and we see him back in here at some point when he's healthy. But I think that to take anything away from Arnold Allen's first round in that fight would be just like criminal.
Yeah.
Because that injury happened at like the very end of that round, and that fight was a 10-9 Arnold Allen much before that injury happened. So it sucks. Like, you never want to see it. But at the end of the day, Arnold Allen looked really good. Like, his left straight was fantastic. That was the one thing that he hit Kattar with like 3 of them in a row that just snapped his head back. And I thought that was crazy, but his footwork looked great. And I don't know, like, what did you think of that fight when you watched it? Like, obviously it's tough with the ending, but
yeah,
what you got out
I
of it?
still thought, like, you know, is a huge win for Arnold Allen. I think there's like a lot you can do with him now, in which that's good. But I mean, yeah, you never want to see it end that way. I was hoping for just all, you know, every single round to just be super close, and obviously like no. Well, obviously in that case it wouldn't be a robbery, but, you know, like the right, you know, at least for like who I scored to win the fight, like hopefully, you know, he wins the fight. But even then, like, I was hoping for that. But, you know, Arnold Allen, that's a huge win for him. Like, it's Calvin Kattar. Like, this fight is in period when it was booked. Like, I was looking forward to. I'm glad it was a main event for this card too. But
we've had some rough ones lately.
Yeah, but that's.
Sorry,
no, you're good. That's really all you can take of it. There wasn't too much to not necessarily. I just from the fight itself, you just wish you could see more like a proper finish, but
it's tough. And you would like to see how Kattar would have rebounded if he was like still on like 2 legs after round 1, which is tough. But like I said, it's just hard to take away from Arnold Allen. And even coming into this fight, I didn't really post like an official prediction because we did the pod like a day later.
Yeah.
I didn't have as much time to watch like the fights, so this coming week, I kind of had Allen coming in, but it wasn't like official. But just because Arnold Allen is so good everywhere, like his boxing looked incredible in this fight against a guy who people say is one of the best boxers in this division. And then, by the way, I actually saw him, speaking of that, because I used him as an example one time of like people saying good boxing in MMA or just people with like good hands. But Calvin Kattar and Andrei Arlovski fought on this card, and coming into this card, Arlovski has been in the UFC for about 17 more years than Calvin Kattar, which is crazy enough. But in those spans of their careers, Calvin Kattar has already taken more significant strikes than Andrei Arlovski has in those 17 years. So, he's definitely not a bad boxer, but like, how good of a boxer really are you if you're getting lit up, even if you win? Like, I don't know. Like, he's definitely he's got hands, and he kind of reminds me. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie.
It's
The Fighter.
It's the brawling type of. That's how I've always seen Calvin Kattar, is a straight brawler, dude who can
Do you know who Mickey Ward is? I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg.
No.
But he was like a guy. He had I forget what division he was in, but he had like these 3 great fights with Arturo Gatti. I think it was whatever division like Mayweather was in. It was like that type of division. And I think he might have actually been from like Boston too. Huh. And he was just like a tough, gritty fighter, and he would win big fights and he would lose some big fights because he was the type of guy who was going to give some and take some.
And that's why I think Calvin Kattar's part of why Calvin Kattar's such a huge fan favorite.
As he should be.
Yeah, he's it's a slugfest with him every single time. Yeah. But you got to protect yourself too.
Yeah, and I'm not that was the reason really why he lost this fight.
Yeah.
He was losing the round because of it, but the knee injury, no mistake, that's obviously what caused it. That's not even what we're trying to say. But it was tough too because you could see it kind of pop in the replay of the first round, and then you see it in the second round when he kicks him in the calf. Ugh, that was just brutal. You could see the weird motion right by the side of his knee, and I was like, oh, it just looks really, really painful. And, it sucks. Like I said, I hope he gets back soon. But Arnold Allen obviously called for an interim title shot. Bisping, man, the guy doesn't want to talk shit, man. He's clearly so uncomfortable. He's like, tell me a name. and then he's like, I just want to fight. But I like the interim title call out. I thought that was a good idea. And my personal fight that I want to see is him versus Josh Emmett. I don't know if you agree with that, because obviously there's a couple people you might be able to argue that could get that shot, but I don't know. What do you think of Arnold Allen's call out?
I think you can really put any of those guys up against each other. I mean, it's funny too because Emmett's got the win over Kattar now. Arnold Allen's got the win over Kattar. Kind of just writes itself, makes sense. So. And
the division is just in such a weird spot. Every main event has had some weird shit happen.
I mean, I don't. I guess, not really sure what's going on with Josh Emmett anyways. I guess, I don't really know what, fight he even, wants.
He's been calling for a title shot, but the UFC and, MMA media just does an awful job at promoting him. And
I can tell. I can tell.
It's just awful. He's been calling for a Volkanovski shot, but now he even says he would take an interim title. He just wants a big fight. And I agree with him that he's earned it. So I think him versus Arnold Allen would be fair. A good co-main of a pay-per-view maybe, and we could just have a cool interim featherweight title fight while Alexander Volkanovski is fighting Makhachev. Yeah. Maybe it could be the co-main of that card in Perth, or I don't know if maybe the co-main of that, because I know they want Whitaker versus Costa to be the co-main most likely. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully they do that fight. I think everybody would want to see that. Maybe you could argue that Yair Rodriguez could slip in there, but I don't really
I
want to see that.
don't think so either.
Out of the fluky victories that have been happening in featherweight, like, because, with Josh Emmett, you could argue, like, that Kattar won that fight. Like, it's kind of, like, in between. Arnold Allen obviously wins this fight in such a weird way. And then, obviously, Yair Rodriguez pops Ortega's shoulder out in, like, the weird way. So, I don't know. Very odd spot for the featherweight division in Vienna. It's kind of sucks.
Yeah,
because that's why we need this fight.
It's like literally just because Volkanovski's like just beating everybody, just about everybody at this point,
and nobody can get
so
a clean win.
Yeah, exactly. So the two guys that he hasn't fought, like you put them in a fight for the interim title, and then you stack him up against whoever wins that fight. It makes sense. Yeah.
Mine is Allen versus Emmett. I hope that's the one that happens. So
I agree.
We'll see. And moving on though to the co-main event, we got Max Payne-Griffin versus Tim Means, and this is a fight that, like, right when I saw it on the card, like, this is gonna be really good, and it lived up to it. If you ask me, it was a very close fight. A lot of split decisions on this one, like a lot of important ones too. And obviously Max Payne-Griffin ended up getting the split decision. So I guess I'll start off with this. Did you think that Max did enough to win the fight?
Yeah, I did. I mean, the split decision was fair too. I would even argue like unanimous decision for Max Griffin. I think he won the first 2 rounds. And then
really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I thought Tim won round 2, but I guess like maybe I'm contradicting myself a little bit, because in round 3 I kind of like Tim Means, like with the stats he landed more, but Max had like way more control time. But round 2 was like, I don't know, I thought it was a little closer, but I gave it to Tim personally.
Yeah, it was pretty close. That's why, like, it's tough sometimes. That's why a split decision is fair. You can't really argue with it, but I'd say that even if it was ruled a unanimous decision, at least for Max Griffin, I think I wouldn't have had too much of a problem with it. But Max Griffin, I think, was the right winner anyway. So
I think you said before, I was just processed. I think you said if they would have gave it to Max Griffin, I wouldn't have been mad. So,
no,
it was a good win by Max Griffin. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, did he just say the same?
Unanimous? No, yeah,
I get you.
Yeah,
I don't know. I agree with you. Like, I think it could have been unanimous. I thought like Max did enough. Like, even in round 3, like I personally, like I said, even me, like I had it 1-1 going into round 3. And I thought that Max did enough, even with the volume landed by Tim Means.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I thought that this one was a bit of an odd, like, split decision, because I thought it was more clear than some of the other ones. But good win, man. Like, I'm a fan of Max Payne-Griffin, dude. Like, I've been following him on, like, Instagram for a while. He posts, like, funny shit sometimes. And he's just real, so I respect that. And he said that, his loss to Neil Magny was just bothering him, and he couldn't wait to just really, like, show up and do something like this. And I thought he fought a good fight against a dude who's durable and is just as tough and gritty as he is. Because Tim, the Dirty Bird dude, like Tim Means, he's a dog, and he's been around for a long time. And I'm glad that these two guys got matched up with each other. I thought that was a fight that needed to happen. So, good win for Max Griffin, though. Then you're moving on to Where's Waldo, Cortes-Acosta versus Jared Vanderaa. And I feel like Jared Vanderaa fights like every month. Is that just me?
He's in there.
Bit. I'm gonna look him up while you give, because you seem like you're about to give thoughts on this fight. So I'll let you kind of.
Well, I just thought I thought the last fight would be a split decision. I thought that was fair. This one with the unanimous decision for Cortes was a little odd to me.
Yeah.
I thought this was much closer to a split decision than a unanimous, or even Cortes not even winning the fight. That's kind of how I was feeling, to be honest.
So you personally had Vanderaa winning?
I did, yeah. I gave Vanderaa the first 2 rounds. Well, yeah, no, it was close. Don't get me wrong, but I thought really only Cortes had that 3rd round going for him, and then a unanimous decision was ruled for him, and then that's when I was like, okay, that was pretty weird. But
yeah, for me, there's another fight on this card that was a unanimous decision win that was kind of out of this world. But I don't know. I thought this one was a little bit like, I feel like you could make an argument for both because it was such a weird fight. Like the way that
it really was.
Because Cortes-Acosta was landing all the head strikes, and then Vanderaa landed basically just as many head strikes but leg kicks on Cortes-Acosta. So it was like, to me, like the way that I kind of had it, I don't even know like even now who I would think would win that fight, like based on the scorecards. But I kind of thought that it just kind of came down to like which thing you value more, like whether it was the damage to his legs, because I think towards the end of the fight, like you kind of see like the damage like visibly, and it had to be affecting him somewhat. But I don't know, I kind of leaned the way you did.
Yeah, even when Cortes had to switch the lead leg, and then Vanderaa just started working on, you know, the other one, it was like wow, like he's really like making sure to like take out that base of Cortes. I thought it was smart, like, and I thought, you know, it was not necessarily like, I won't say like enough, like that's all he had to do, but I thought, you know, at least the first 2 rounds like were Vanderaa's fight, and then Cortes started getting into it a lot more in the 3rd round, and then interesting decision.
It's tough too because I pulled up the stats for this one because coming in I was kind of curious like who outlanded who and like all that stuff, and you know like I see like what you're saying too. And, like, I still, like I said, I don't even really know what I think. But going off the numbers, which is kind of crazy, Waldo outlanded Vanderaa all 3 of the rounds. Even round 3. Or even, like, rounds 1 and 2, I'm trying to say. It's just a matter of, like, what damage you think. And even, let's see significant strikes, if that's any different. Yeah, no, it's not. Significant strikes are pretty much almost identical. A lot of the strikes in this fight were significant ones, apparently. And then you look at, like, the percentages, too. Like, you got 56% of strikes landed to the head by Cortes-Acosta, and then 69% to the legs for Jared Vanderaa. So it's like clearly both people had like their game plan set into the fight. And honestly, Cortes-Acosta, he landed like a lot of body punches too, even in every round. Like he did well, like going into Vanderaa's body. That might have also been like another reason why the judges.
That's probably what edged it out for him.
That's a very close fight.
It was like you said, it was a weird one, tough one to score.
So maybe if you guys want to let us know what you guys value more, the leg kick damage or Cortes-Acosta's like heavy head strikes that outlanded Vanderaa by like a decent clip. So we'll see. And moving on to Tresean Gore, who was someone I was so high on this guy when he came into the UFC, but it just, even like after this fight, it just doesn't seem like it's been like too good for him. I don't know, like he lost his first couple, and then this one even like he looked okay, and then obviously like the submission is what you're gonna see with the highlight because the UFC loves Tresean Gore.
Yeah, I liked like, you know, his first few fights for him, like kind of like, you know, he seemed overwhelmed a little bit, I guess, like, you know, just that jump, I guess, to the UFC, and then, you know, the competition and all that. Like he's clearly got the size, he's got like the tools and stuff, but just hasn't been putting it all together yet. And then even this fight, you know, things got a little dicey. Things are pretty dicey for him, like after that first round, you know, and then there was an opportunity for him to slip the guillotine. You know, I think it was Fremd going in for, I think Fremd was looking for, I forget how it went exactly. I know Fremd was coming forward though and had his head dipped down, and then Tresean Gore just took it and just had the tightest guillotine like ever. Yeah,
that was crazy. Like when he like actually scrambled and was like standing up, and Gore just still had his head just kind of like squeezing. I was like, oh my god, I was like, this is brutal. And he's tapping as he's standing. Oh, this is bad, dude. Man.
Like the guy's a specimen, but it's just all about putting it all together, and he's yet to do that yet. But this was a much needed win for him, you know.
Yeah, because if he would have lost this fight, you'd have to wonder like what his future in the promotion would be, let alone like, you know, what's going to happen from here. And even now, like, I'm still not sold, obviously, because exactly what you were saying. And I don't know, like, I'd like to see him kind of just get built up slowly, because I think he's a good fighter. Like you said, he's got all the tools. It's just a matter of, like, putting it together. He's athletic. He's got real power. He's a good striker. So we'll see. I think he's a good fighter, but not as
complete. It's about being a complete fighter. He's still working to get there, so I think he's definitely got the potential to be that one day. Yeah,
and it shows a lot of heart too, to like be able to come back from like a tough round to get the win like that. So it says a lot about like his character and who he is, and like I remember even from Tough 29, like when I watched it, because I was like the return of it. He was just like a cool dude throughout the house. Like some people think he's like a little bit arrogant. I feel like even if he was, it seems like he's kind of shaking that a little bit. Maybe those last 2 losses gave him a little more like humbleness. But I don't know. He seems like a good dude. I'm a fan of him personally. Like I sound like I'm being a little harsh, but I do like him, so I'm rooting for him to succeed because he's got a good story. But moving on to the next fight, this is the one that I was actually referencing when I said that this is one that I didn't agree with the decision, really.
Dude.
Khalil Rountree defeats Dustin Jacoby by unanimous decision, I believe. And the weirdest part, this is even weirder than the other one, because they all gave round 3 to Rountree. And I was like, how? Like, he was doing, like, better than he did in the first 2 rounds, but it was still, like, I gave it 30-27 Jacoby. Like, it was close. Don't get me wrong, like I thought it was like a good chess match type of fight, and that's kind of what I figured coming in, because Khalil Rountree has.
I thought it was close enough to, to give it to Rountree too, but like at the end, it didn't. To me, it didn't really matter anyways, because I thought Jacoby won the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's kind of what I thought. Like I don't know. Well, I don't.
And then I think
I pulled the stats up
because of too. Like the 3rd round being closer than it might have seemed. Like I just thought Justin Jacoby was on his way to unanimous decision victory.
He outlanded Khalil Rountree by 17 in the round that everybody gave Rountree, and he landed with more accuracy by like a bunch. Rountree threw more strikes and landed less. He was 32%.
Doesn't make sense.
Jacoby was 55.
Does not make sense sometimes.
And this is a prime example of like what I was kind of talking about with O'Malley versus Jan. I still don't think this is a robbery, because if you watch the fight, all the rounds, even like despite the numbers, like because this isn't a fight that you can really go solely off the stats. Because if you're watching it, Khalil did do some like good work in there, and I think you could make like an argument maybe, but I don't know. That was
but even
one.
Like a unanimous decision victory.
Yeah, it wasn't even split. I was like, when it was unanimous, I figured, okay, Jacoby's got it, and then they gave it to Rountree.
I was given the judges some sort of like props. Like even if they ruled Max Griffin a unanimous decision, like okay, I could have seen that. Wouldn't have had much of a problem with it. This fight doesn't really. That came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I just don't get it. And then the round that all 3 of them gave Rountree, he didn't win it. Like I don't know. I gave Rountree round 2, and even that round was too close, because like if you look at the stats for that one, Jacoby only outlanded him by 4, but Rountree was a lot more accurate.
The judges definitely had their hands full with this card.
Very true. Main card, honestly.
Yeah, but I mean, you still gotta. It's still just like sometimes like like what are they like valuing? What are they like actually like scoring here, and how are they doing it?
And you wonder if they're all thinking the same thing, because it seems like nobody can agree. Like I talk to people like who value the control time, and I respect that. But then like you look at the actual rule books, the control isn't something that's supposed to matter as much as they make it matter. Not if you're not doing damage. Like, my argument for it, and I honestly, like, what would be fun one time? Maybe we should do this one time. A little idea that I'm just throwing there on a whim. Maybe, like, one time we should just rewatch the Sandhagen-Dillashaw fight and, like, do, like, a little fight companion, put the time on the corner, and just, like, go through it. Like, say what we think as it's going, and maybe that'll give us a better understanding of it, because I think that's the fight that people need to watch when it comes to scoring, because that's the fight that has the most debate around it. That's truly control versus damage. And in total, like, it seems like there's no consistency on that, and there needs to be, because you can't have one judge who values control time more than anything and then one who doesn't value it at all. Like, there has to be some sort of middle ground here.
There is none. Yeah, that's a problem, I think.
The way that I value it is the way that it's said in the rules. It says effective striking and grappling followed by octagon control and all that stuff. So, like, I don't know, because then you can argue that it's considered effective grappling, but I don't know, like, how effective is it if you're not doing anything with it? Like, that's my view on it, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's just how I feel. So I don't know. It seems like we're pretty much in agreement on this fight that the judges might have gotten this one wrong. Like I said, I don't think it was egregious enough to call it like a robbery, but it's like the O'Malley fight. Like, I think it was just some people think probably the wrong guy won.
Even the Acosta-Vanderaa fight, like, that's not, like, I don't think none of these fights were robberies, but the decisions were questionable, to say the least.
Well, thank God the prelims had some finishes to get us out of that.
Yeah.
I put a few here. I figured we'll talk about just, like, the main few that, like, mattered a lot. But the first one I wanted to talk about because you actually texted me, I think, like, right after it, and I kind of, like, was feeling the same way that you felt. But Steve Garcia just brutally finished Chase Hooper, like, within the first, like, 2.5 minutes. And I think he dropped him, like, 5 times, too, which is kind of rough to watch. And even the times when he wasn't dropping him, Chase was just getting beaten around the octagon. That was a hard one to watch. And, like, I've told the story on here when I got to meet Chase, too. So it's tough, like, when you know that he's, like, a cool dude. And, like, it sucks because I'm obviously rooting for him. And then, like, you know, that was tough to watch. And I don't know. I think, I guess if you want to just talk about, like, what you were saying to me, and then we can kind of just go off from there, because I kind of have, like, some thoughts. It sucks, too, because the conversation for this fight is more of, like, well, what's Chase Hooper supposed to do from here, rather than, like, the impressive win by Garcia. So I guess right off the bat, we should just say that was a great win for Garcia, but...
Yeah, but I think that's in the sense that this was clear, like, I think it was clearly meant to be a fight for Chase Hooper to just, you know, like, just get that win under his belt, just get some, like, you know, confidence going and stuff, you know, going into his next... Yeah, exactly. And yeah, not only did he lose, it just went really, really bad. So, like, I don't see how you really book his next UFC fight anytime soon. You know, definitely there's some stuff to work on, and maybe all it does take is, like, maybe some time spent in a different promotion.
That's what I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, and then, you know, he can just come back a completely, like, different fighter with just more experience with other professionals under his belt. And
hey, we've seen champions do that. Like, Brandon Moreno got cut from the UFC, and he's fighting again for the 4th time for this title.
It could be something just like that, exactly.
It's just, I don't know, like, I don't want to see him just get his ass beat by
and
these guys.
he's still, like,
he's 23.
He's still pretty young, so...
You got time, 1 to 2 years, in, like, just any other promotion. Like, and even, like, you know, as crazy as this sounds, and, like, I don't even want to say this in the sense, because, like, sometimes when fighters go here, they're probably not going to come back, and I would like to see Hooper back in the UFC at some point, but maybe even, like, somewhere like Bellator. Like, they have a fun 145-pound division. He's not, like, it's tough because Chase's striking is really what it is. Like, he's got good grappling, but his wrestling, like, isn't to the point where it probably should be. It's pretty good, and it's definitely improved. I should say that. It's improved, like, drastically. But he just doesn't really have much, like, real coordination on the feet. He's not fast. He doesn't really have much power when he's hitting these guys. I don't know. I don't want to see him just keep getting booked because he's, like, a fan favorite, and then he just gets his ass handed to him by these guys who, you know, the UFC, like, wants him to beat. And it's just, I don't know. I think time, like you were kind of saying, I think that just time maybe in another promotion could be, like, the way to do it. Whether that be a Bellator or that be, like, a regional type thing where he's, like, from, I don't know, but it's tough to see him go down like that, and it definitely needed to be talked about because you just don't know where he goes. He's 2-3 in his last 5. He's splitting, like, wins and losses, but the 3 losses that he's had, like, the 2 I remember were just brutal decisions, just getting his ass beat, and then this one was obviously the worst out of any of them with the, like, 5 knockdowns in a couple minutes. So it's just tough to see. Another fight that I wanted to talk about, I kind of mentioned him a little bit when I was talking about Calvin Kattar, but Andre Arlovski obviously lost to Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I didn't want to butcher that. That's why I read it right off there. And it was the first round, right? Was the first round?
Yeah, this was the first
rear
round.
Naked choke. But I don't know. The first thing I wanted to kind of ask you is because when I watched this fight, and, like, not that it was on purpose, and I'm not even really trying to take away from it because it took a while for de Lima to get the choke, but I feel like that headbutt kind of caused Arlovski falling to the ground. Like, I think it just disoriented him, and then that punch to the chest was just, like, really powerful and just knocked him down. I don't know. Like, I don't think he was, like, rocked per se, like, from a punch or anything like that, which is tough because, like, Arlovski kind of, like, anytime you see, like, an Arlovski first round finish loss, you're kind of like, okay, he needs to hang it up. But I don't know, like, we've used, like, the term because Colby liked to use, like, the slipped on a banana peel. that was kind of how this fight really went for him.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Although I do think that Lima was probably going to win anyway, judging by how it was going.
But you still want to just see it like just end like I'm not that it ended properly, but just like nothing controversial or like debatable, like this doesn't happen, like then this fight goes a completely different way or something like that. But I guess we'll never know. I think Andre Arlovski, I think he'll be back in there, and then
I think Lima's pretty good. Like he's 37, so I think if you're gonna push him, it's time.
Yeah,
he's running out here. He's got I get heavyweight has a longer shelf life than most other divisions, but you definitely want. I think beating Arlovski warrants like a top 15 challenge personally. But
that's fair, yeah.
I thought it was a good win by him either way.
Yeah.
His jiu-jitsu looked incredible, like whether you think that the way that they got to the ground was important or not. So it seems like there's just a lot of injuries in this fight card, because the next one and the last one I plan on really talking about was how Dolidze knocked out Phil Hawes, but the knee bar, man, that he hurt his knee with, that was so nasty. Like when he had him in it, I had to look away. I was like, I don't want to see this dude tear something. And then obviously he just was not right after that, and then that knockout was brutal, definitely brutal. It's just, I don't know, like you could say it was because of that too, but like at the same time, I think Dolidze has gotten so much better from fight to fight. He's another one of those guys who's been doing that. And it's cool, too, because he credits Bisping and his commentary for that one fight that he kind of just wrote it out and won, like, a clear decision. Cool. And he's like, yeah, he goes, you told me I had to do more with my, like, what I was doing with my wrestling, and I think that I've rounded out my game because of it. So that's kind of cool, like, that he got something from the commentary. And just knocking out Phil Hawes is impressive, too, because Hawes is, like, a really good wrestler. He's got power in his hands himself. And I thought that this was honestly going to be a big fight, like, in terms of like who's going to take down who, but obviously Dolidze just slept Phil Hawes with that that was just a horrible knockout. Like Phil was out cold, and he's got hit a couple more times, so it was tough to see. Because I kind of like Phil Hawes. I don't really like, some people hate on him, but I don't know. I think it's probably because he's from like Jersey, so I kind of like that.
Yeah, I will see. As far as Dolidze goes, like I think it was impressive enough a win for him. Like you can. Not like, I think you can give him like a bit of a push, like maybe one more fight, and then you could start like evaluating like, whether or not he start hanging with these guys in the top 15 and all that.
I would agree with that.
But I think there's potentially, that's like, that's especially seeing how the fight went too. Like it's really promising to hear, like, now he feels like he's rounded out his game and all that.
Yeah. And this wasn't even like a fluke injury. Like, yeah, maybe the knockout might have been, but the injury was like a legit knee bar. Like,
exactly. He used the knee bar, and then that's kind of, not that, obviously Calvin Kattar's injury was a lot more just like, out of nowhere and just unfortunate, but...
Yeah, he threw like a flying knee and just landed weird.
Yeah, and then so all Arnold Allen had to do is just kick out the other leg, and then that was it.
And like there. You hate, like even the commentary team was like, like it sucks. Like, and I'm sure he's thinking about that, but you just got to do it. Like, he has a weakness, and you got to take advantage of it. Exactly. That's the fight game. You play baseball, you play basketball.
Yeah, and his corner's like telling him too, like, he like some definitely just like happened with his knee, like, so he's gonna try to, he's obviously gonna use that, like it's gonna be as his back foot, like as his base. He's gonna try to stand on it. So you just gotta take out, you gotta take out the other one, and then he can't. There's no other leg to stand on anymore. So yeah, that's just how it has to be sometimes. And then Dolidze, like just a straight knee bar that sets up a crazy knockout. Like I love seeing
as clean of a win as you can get. Really.
Exactly, I love seeing finishes like that. Like guys using one thing or the other to set up, another finish, whether it's, striking on the feet to, set up a takedown or some sort of level change, something like that, and then the other way around too. Like,
it was cool to see him go from jiu-jitsu to like just clean, just striking and knocking him out like that. That was something to watch. It really was. But this whole card was honestly pretty fun. I thought the prelims were really exciting this time out, and then obviously the main card was pretty cool. We had a lot of close fights, good fights. And yeah, I mean, this is a much better event than since the ones that have been kind of been put like they've been putting out. But next week they have, I think it's Amanda Lemos versus Marina Rodriguez. We're not sure if we're gonna make a video or not. It's definitely not gonna be a full length pod. And that's not it's not the card itself. We should say that we're going on a trip. We're going to New Orleans, so hey, that's kind of cool. And we're gonna be down there for pretty much the whole weekend. And it's a vacation, and vacations are meant to like just let loose. You know what I mean? And we might make a video, like just a video talking about the main event if we do have a chance. But that's not a guarantee. But either way, like we'll announce it on like the Twitter and like the Instagram, just so you guys know. But
that's it. Just more cards like these where like, the main event, for instance, like now, like, okay, like we have a potential interim featherweight title fight. Like now that could
even next week's I like a lot because Lemos is really good, and Marina Rodriguez is like the dark horse in that division, honestly, with the contenders. I'm still pissed that she's not getting any title shots.
Exactly, man. We all just want a story to follow. And just like at the end, we just be like, we want to be like, okay, like this is like where this can go now from here, and like like this happened, like all of it. So just that sort. That's the kind of just I guess like substance that fight nights should have to them. Like guys getting big wins, much needed wins, and then that's setting them up for a huge fight for even a prelim on a pay-per-view maybe, or just on a pay-per-view itself. Like that's how you should use a fight night card.
Exactly. And I think next week is a good example of that. Like this main event has definitely like heavy implications on the strawweight division, and obviously the week after that is UFC 281, where the strawweight title is going to be on the line with Zhang Weili and Carlos Esparza, the champ. So, and obviously the main event between Izzy and Alex Pereira is going to be just incredible. I've been seeing a lot of promos so far, and I'm going to tell you what, I'm hyped.
Yeah.
The UFC is doing a good job with this one. I just want to make that known. So if you guys haven't seen the promo material yet for that main event, go on, don't do it until you finish this pod, which is it's going to be over shortly. But right after this, just go on the UFC YouTube, or just look it up on Instagram, something, and just watch the main event, cold open or whatever, because it is hype. So yeah, we're pretty excited for it. We'll probably be fully back for that card, so we're looking forward to it, and we'll let you guys know about next week's video, and we'll see you guys next time.
Feel just like a superstar. Doing all these drugs, I don't think I'm gonna see tomorrow. Living fast, brand new dash up in a foreign car. It's the type of shit that you be doing when you going hard.